So let's get to our topic at hand. At Brown, advising takes many forms, and there are a number of opportunities for students to both receive advising and also participate as peer advisors. It's a mutually beneficial relationship for both the advisor and the advisee. And we have some student advisors here today who are going to talk about just that. Peer advising takes many forms, from Career Lab to the Curricular Resource Center to writing fellows, as well as we even have advisors within health and wellness as part of the Be Well program who help peers with health education. But today we're going to talk about one of the oldest programs at Brown. It started sometime around 1904, and there's some great history on the website that you can read about that. It's very unique. This is the Meiklejohn Peer Advisor Program. And today, to give us an overview of that program, is Gilda Mosaddegh, who is the Deputy Dean of the College for Academic Advising. I'll turn it over to you, Gilda, and then you can introduce the students afterward.
Sounds good. Hello, everyone. I am Gilda Mosaddegh, Deputy Dean of the College for Academic Advising. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. As a member of the college team here, I assist our students with their personal, academic, and professional goals while at Brown. Within that portfolio, I oversee our class year advising team, our international student advising team, and our financial advising team. And I have the distinct pleasure of also working with our Meiklejohn peer advisors, two of which you will hear from shortly. So as Mikhail mentioned, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about advising in general at Brown and the advising network that exists on campus. So let's start by talking about the Brown Open Curriculum. I would imagine that many of your students chose Brown precisely because of this. We do not have general education requirements at Brown, unlike most of our peer institutions. And so you will oftentimes hear us say that students are the architect of their own education. We want them to be fearless. We want them to take full advantage of the opportunities that they have here in the various disciplines that we teach and the interdisciplinary opportunities, which are amazing. And so I thought it would be helpful by starting and showing a video to you all about the open curriculum.
We live in a complex world full of complex problems. How do we prepare the next generation to solve them? At Brown, we believe it requires a rigorous, innovative approach to education, an approach that is the open curriculum. Instead of taking a prescribed set of general core requirements, the open curriculum makes students the architects of their own educational experience. It gives students the freedom to tap into their own interests and shows them how studying different subjects develops different ways of learning, whether they want to explore many interests or delve deeply into the subject they love. Brown students learn, how to question, how to solve, skills they'll need for life. We give students tools, like the shopping period, a time when students can experience as many courses as they want to explore where their interests lie. Since everyone is simultaneously going through this process, they can bounce ideas off one another and also get plenty of guidance from faculty and peer advisors. Making these informed choices isn't easy, but through the process, students discover who they are and what feels meaningful to pursue. This is a learning experience in itself. By putting students in charge of their own education, our approach fosters a love for learning, collaboration, and continuous discovery. With this freedom comes immense responsibility. It's on each individual student to decide what their experience will be like at Brown and to find their purpose. This makes the open curriculum as flexible as it is rigorous, and it's been this way for more than 50 years. Decades ago, engaged students called for a reimagined curriculum. With faculty, they transformed Brown's philosophy of education in general to be more student-centered, and a new curriculum was born. But it's not only a way to think about education. This approach is also action-oriented. Each of our students can do research and engage in hands-on learning environments, collaborating with students and faculty in other concentrations. Students at Brown become well-rounded, multifaceted people who understand different perspectives. They then take everything they've learned in every area of interest and put it to use in the real world. They become the kinds of people who tackle and solve the complex problems our world is facing today. Visit brown.edu to learn more.
I hope you found that video to be as inspiring as I did. Every time I watch it, something new points out to me, but essentially you can imagine that the open curriculum, for as many benefits as it has, can also be somewhat intimidating for students when they first come to Brown. And that's why advising is so critical to the student experience. So during their journey here, students become risk takers, their curiosity is fostered, their intellectual and personal growth is inevitable. You heard about the shopping period. That's something that is unique to Brown in the sense that students get to go to classes, listen to professors, look at the course syllabi, engage in the material before making a final decision about what courses they're going to take in a given semester. And with over 80 concentrations to choose from, in addition to being able to create their own concentration, which one of our Meiklejohns here has done and can probably speak to, the opportunities are really endless in that sense. So we provide a very robust advising network here at Brown that includes faculty, staff, students, and we also know that our students have informal advisors like parents and family members and mentors that they've had over the course of their entire educational journey, and we encourage that as well. So why do we think it's important to promote community, belonging, and inclusivity in higher education, but particularly in advising? Well, the research says it's essential to do so. So that sense of belonging and connection that a student feels to an institution results in better engagement, persistence, mental health, retention, and graduation rates. And in all of those areas, Brown is doing exceptional. You can see that the research that was done that I have cited here is pre-COVID. So you can just imagine that post-COVID, this has become even more important to our students who have had, unfortunately, some disruption to their education and to the social norms that would exist on a college campus. So we take this level of support and encouragement really seriously. So our inclusive advising model encompasses rich and meaningful ongoing conversations. So students will have exploratory advisors, then they'll have concentration advisors. Once they declare a concentration, they will have the opportunity to meet with folks at the Career Lab, the Sheridan Center, the Swearer Center, so many opportunities to talk to folks who have real experience, were practitioners in their various disciplines and fields before coming into higher education and serving as educators. But most importantly, what our advisors do is they promote self-reflection for our students. So understanding what one's goals are, what their strengths are, what their values are, really then informs what decisions they're going to make in college. And so those decisions need to be informed. And the advisor is essentially a facilitator. We ask a lot of open-ended questions. We do a lot of active listening. And then we ultimately connect students with opportunities on campus, curriculum, co-curriculum. So examples of that would be our experiential learning opportunities with an internship, research, and things like that. Working closely with faculty is something that students find very easy to encounter here at Brown. And then ultimately just supporting that growth. The professional competencies that our students find from their courses is immense. And then they're able to practice and apply what they're learning in the classroom through all the co-curricular opportunities that we have outside of the classroom. So just to give you a few examples of who encompasses that network of advisors at Brown. We have our first year students will be assigned to a faculty or staff advisor and a Meiklejohn peer advisor, which is what we're really here to talk about today. We have our concentration advisors who are faculty within the various academic departments. So if a student is a double concentrator, they will have a concentration advisor in each of those disciplines, supporting their academics throughout. An advising dean in the college. So the advising teams that I was telling you about, our class year advising team, our international student advising team, and financial advising team, they are regularly meeting with students throughout the academic year to talk about pre-registration, to help students who are maybe pre-health or pre-law, and the list goes on in the conversations that they have with students and being able to support them throughout their academic journey here. professors, obviously. So I like to tell my students that they will probably never have this much free time again in their lives. And they laugh, but I say, no, seriously, like take advantage of it. Go to faculty office hours, go meet with your TAs, learn about the graduate programs that they're in, learn about the career trajectory that brought your professor to Brown. So those informal conversations, those informational interviews that they do with faculty are really critical to their development and thinking about what potential opportunities exist after their undergraduate career ends. The directors of undergraduate studies within the various academic departments can assist students in learning about the curriculum, the various steps that are required throughout the curriculum, and then also those co-curricular opportunities that I mentioned earlier, like research opportunities, being able to be published as an undergraduate, things like that. Departmental undergraduate groups. So these are actually students, continuing students who are embedded in the various departments and concentrations and really create a sense of community for the concentration. And so when students are exploring the various options that they have in those 80+ concentrations, DUGs are a really important resource because they're students that are very familiar with the department and can talk to students about what to anticipate if they do ultimately decide to declare a concentration within that department. Our Res Life staff, who are intimately, living side by side with our students in the residence halls, including our community coordinators, who are students who serve as Res Life staff. Our career lab advisors, they can work with our students to do anything from an assessment like StrengthsFinder to talking to them about internship opportunities, not just in the summer, but actually during the academic year. So Brown has many opportunities where students can serve in internships, both abroad and domestically, and earn academic credit for those opportunities. So Career Lab and the college partner very closely to talk to students about opportunities outside the classroom. Our academic coaches and tutors and writing fellows and writing center. And again, those personal advisors that are so critical, like you all who have logged in today to this webinar, friends, roommates, mentors, all of that is obviously encouraged. So what advising theories inform our approach? Well, we have a very holistic approach. We know that students are not just robots going to class, writing papers and taking tests, but they have this very full life, and we want to support each and every aspect of that life. So sometimes advising conversations may present in one way, but the more you start talking to the student, there are other things that are maybe concerning to them or impeding their academic ability. And so our advisors are continually getting training in order to support students in their various needs, both inside and outside of the classroom. Relatedly, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So we know that in order for our students to flourish, in order for our students to thrive, their needs need to be met first. And so the example I give here is an undiagnosed learning disability. If a student's talking to an advisor and mentioning some things that we feel like could maybe be concerns that they would want to discuss with one of our partner offices, like student support services, student accessibility services, we will do a warm handoff to those experts in order for students to get reasonable accommodations or get the services that they need to be successful here. And finally, my own personal favorite, Baxter McGold's self-authorship theory, which essentially says that ultimately what we are doing here is promoting autonomy, making sure that our students are successful beyond the gates here at Brown and able to live lives that are productive, but also as change agents in the world. They're going to be our leaders, our future leaders. And so making sure that they have the skill sets to make difficult decisions and make informed decisions is really important. So supporting that exploration, asking lots of questions, asking them to be fearless in the opportunities that they pursue and the risk-taking that they take in their academics is critical. And then I would just say, encouraging reflection throughout their academic career. So it's not uncommon for a student to come to Brown thinking that they're going to pursue a particular area or a particular concentration, and that ultimately evolves as they explore other opportunities. Some of the interdisciplinary opportunities that we have here are so unique to Brown, and so it may never have even, been an idea that a student has come across until they come here. And so with that, I am going to turn it over to our fabulous MIC leaders. I will ask that they each introduce themselves, maybe tell us what you're studying, what year you're in, and what your hometown is.
Yeah, I can start. Hello, my name is Cecile. I'm originally from Toledo, Ohio, and I'm a junior at Brown right now studying infectious epidemiology, which is a concentration I created myself that I can talk more about later, just because the independent concentration route is just so exciting to be a part of. And yeah, I'm a Meiklejohn leader alongside Leah.
Hi, my name is Melia. I'm currently a sophomore from Honolulu, Hawaii, and I'm studying biology on the immunobiology track.
All right, thank you, Gilda. Thank you, Cecile and Malia. Let's get started with the questions that we've received so far. So my first question is for Gilda. Thank you for that great presentation. And I think some of these questions you covered a little bit, but maybe we can go a bit deeper as we go along. So one question that we got frequently was, how are Meiklejohn peer advisors selected? And so let's go with that, and then I have a follow-up.
Sure. So we have a large number of students pursuing the Meiklejohn program every year. So this year we may have broke some records, but we had over 500 applicants seeking to be Meiklejohns. And I think that that really is a testament to the experience that they have as first-year students and how meaningful that relationship is, and then wanting to contribute back to the campus environment. And so they fill out an application. Those applications are reviewed by our Meiklejohn leader cohort. And yeah, that's how we choose a roughly 350 to 380 Meiklejohns each year.
Great, thank you. And how are students who are seeking support, how do you pair them up? What do you look at when you're selecting an advisor for a specific student?
I think we're just looking to make sure that each of our incoming first-year students has both either a faculty and staff advisor or a Meiklejohn advisor, and in addition to a Meiklejohn advisor. And so we don't necessarily send out like surveys or anything like that to the incoming first-year class. They have their assigned Meiklejohn peer advisor, but there are so many opportunities for them to meet other MICs, as we lovingly call them. And so then they can connect with other MICs that they may find that they have additional connections with.
Right, thank you. And then to continue on that theme, do the advisors, and maybe the students can add into this as well, do advisors help the students they're working with actual course selection?
It's a great question. So they do, in the sense that I think it's really helpful for our incoming students to ask about the course offerings that we have, and asking, have you taken this? Do you know someone who's taken this course? Would you recommend it for my first semester? And that feedback that they get from a peer is really helpful in easing some of that anxiety, easing some of the concerns they have with course selection. Again, they have the shopping period, which they should utilize and go to the courses that they're thinking of shopping, like, around 5 courses. But yeah, I think Cecile and Malia, if you want to talk to that as well, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I can help answer this question. So for my freshman year, when I was coming in the fall, I was really undecided on what I wanted to take. So I went to my MIC and I went to my faculty advisor, and I was like, hey, these are the kinds of things I'm interested in, but I'm not really sure how I want to balance my schedule. I'm not sure which departments I wanted to look into. So they both sat down with me and helped me come up with a few ways that I could balance my schedule and a couple of options of classes that I could take with them. So I did take their advice. And then for the spring semester, when I was doing pre-registration, I had looked into the classes far into advance, and I had a set of classes that I wanted to register for. So when I met with them for that semester, I kind of just was like, oh, these are the classes I'm interested in taking. What do you think? And they looked over my classes and they said, I don't see any problems with those. So I think it really depends on the kind of advice that you are seeking from your peer advisor and from your faculty advisor, and the ways that they can best support what you're looking for. So when I needed a little more support, they were there to provide a little more guidance. And when I kind of had a self-directed vision, they were just there to back me up and be like, yeah, that looks great.
I just wanted to add to that. So given the wide range of interests that students have at Brown, a lot of the times the Meiklejohn that student might be assigned to may not fit the concentration they want to go into. And I had that situation when I came in as a freshman. I actually had 2 Meiklejohns and they were studying French and education. And I was going in hoping to study something in the sciences and maybe also along the history side. But even though they weren't really familiar with the courses that I was interested in, they were able to refer me to friends and other people in their Meiklejohn group, which is the group that the Meiklejohn leaders oversee. And so I was able to get connected to other people that had taken those courses and really learn more from their perspective. So if they're not able to help you directly, they're kind of there as a liaison to connect you to others who can.
Right. Thanks, Cecile. I'm going to stay with you for the next questions. So can you explain the difference between peer advising and tutoring?
Yeah, definitely. So I think tutoring is more of a course-based approach. So when I think of tutoring, I think of the Sheridan Center and the group tutoring that Brown currently has set up. And I believe that's set up for most STEM intro classes and language classes. So for that, you'll be in a group of maybe 4 to 6 students, and then you'll get support from another peer who had taken that class and feels that they can also support other students and has gone through that training and everything. Sorry, it's a little noisy right now. But essentially for tutoring, you'd meet on a weekly basis and get support from that class. And then with Meiklejohning, it's more of like support throughout the school year when it comes to like choosing your classes and also having someone to go to when you have personal issues and just want a friend to talk to. So Meiklejohns don't really help you with your courses and the course material. Rather, we help you with navigating life at Brown and being able to take advantage of all the opportunities here. So there's a pretty clear distinction between the two.
Great, thank you. Malia, so how does peer advising support students who have double concentrations? Do they get 2 advisors, or is it one handling both concentrations? If you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so prior to freshman year, each first year student is going to be paired with a Meiklejohn. And like Cecile was saying earlier, sometimes the concentrations don't necessarily line up with the students' intended fields of study. And that's kind of intentional, just so we like to pair up people in different concentrations so that students have a wide range of academic resources available and might be interested in taking some classes or learning about things that they don't necessarily know about. So coming into Brown, a lot of first years are interested in double concentrating, and their Meiklejohn might be double concentrating and might not be. And we like to look at mix as a breadth of knowledge. So they might not necessarily have a specific answer of like, oh, how do I balance this double concentration? How do I schedule my classes? But they are fully equipped with the tools to direct you in the right places, whether that be like the DUGs, the department undergraduate groups that have a little more concentration specific advice. It could be the individual advising programs of the department that they're interested in. So basically the Meiklejohns can support a student who's interested in double concentrating by helping them to balance their work and their life with school and the transition to college, and also by directing them to more specific resources if they have a little more specific questions that they wanted answered.
Great, thank you. I am going to switch over to Cecile. How did you become interested in becoming a Meiklejohn advisor?
Yeah, so for me, the biggest thing was just paying it forward and just becoming an advisor to help the first years feel more accustomed in the place, just as I've become more accustomed since my Meiklejohn helped me with that transition. So before I came to Brown, I was absolutely terrified, especially coming from an area in the Midwest where I didn't know anybody that was going to Brown. And a lot of other students have that experience when they don't know anyone around them that has been to this institution. And also coming in as a first-gen low-income student, that presented another barrier where I just didn't really know what to expect. And I was just really scared about just entering college and also just entering this space. But having a Meiklejohn really helped me bridge my fears and be able to enter the space and know what I was going into and take advantage of everything. And so for me as a Meiklejohn, I just want to make sure that first years like feel supported and want like get all their answers, get everything addressed so that they can best take advantage of their education here. So yeah, the biggest thing was just providing support for students the way I had gotten it.
That's great. And you had mentioned before that you created your own independent concentration. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so coming into Brown, I was hoping to double concentrate in history and biology as a pre-med, and that was just because I had interests in the two and I kind of viewed them separately. But then I learned about independent concentrations where you essentially develop your entire course plan. And I know the open curriculum, essentially, there are no requirements and students have their own course of study. But with independent concentrations, it's different because I actually designed my requirements for my major. So I went through all the departments and I went on CAB, which is our website where you look at all the classes. And I picked classes from like biology, anthropology, public health, history, and it took a couple revisions just because the independent concentration process is pretty rigorous since it's involved with the college and everything, and they want to make sure that you really know what you want to study and you have good reasoning. But in the end, I just explained why I was passionate about the subject that I'm studying, which is infectious epidemiology, kind of just the study of infectious diseases, why it was applicable to everything today, especially with COVID going on. And it was received pretty well, and I'm really excited to be studying it. And I just feel like it gives me a new perspective on Brown since I'm able to just focus in on my concentration without having to worry about two separate concentrations and not being able to intersect them as I go through my field of study.
Excellent, thank you. Malia, another question along the same lines. How did you become interested in becoming a Meiklejohn advisor?
Yeah, so I think my story is very similar to Cecile's. I come from far away. I'm thousands of miles away from home, and the East Coast is just so different from where I'm from that I was really nervous about entering the sphere, interacting with like a culture that is different from my own, even though it's technically the same country. And I had a problem one day early in my fall semester, and I was just like, oh, I don't know what to do. So I picked up my phone. I just called my Meiklejohn. He was at dinner, and he like picked up right away. He was like, what do you need? He like sat down, he opened up his laptop and just like helped me work through this problem. And I really did just cold call him. And I just felt so supported, and I felt like I had someone to turn to. And I really wanted to just pass on that feeling that I wanted my advisees to have the same experience, that they felt like they could call me, they could text me, whatever I was doing, that I could just be like, okay, I can help you, hold on. And that experience actually did happen with me and one of my advisees. So it was a nice full circle moment. And I think it's really satisfying to become a Meiklejohn.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's a nice story to share. Thank you for sharing that. Gilda, a few specific questions about the program. Is it just for first year students? Is it just first year students who receive this kind of advising?
So we have peer advising throughout the institution, but Meiklejohn peer advisors specifically are only for our incoming first year students.
Okay. And we had one question that came in for those students who are interested in becoming a Meiklejohn. Is it a paid position?
It is. So students get a $500 stipend in the fall and another $500 stipend in the spring. And then our Meiklejohn leaders also are compensated for their time that they do in addition to serving as advisors.
Right. And is it mandatory for first year students to participate in the Meiklejohn program?
So they will be assigned a Meiklejohn. As you've heard, it's incredibly helpful, but we don't mandate that they meet with the Meiklejohn a specific number of times in the semester or anything like that.
Okay, so you will have one no matter what as a first year student, but how you interact and use it as a resource will differ.
That's correct. The Meiklejohn will reach out to the first year student throughout their academic year, and the engagement is really left up to them.
Great. So the next question, one of them, I want to shift to one that came in. Since we have mainly parents here on this webinar, given the emphasis that you mentioned on autonomy and developing students to be the captains of their education, what suggestions would you give to parents to be best supportive to their students and contribute to this advising piece of their education?
Yes, as a parent myself, that question resonates. I think that we would support students reaching out back home and talking about the experiences that they're having and talking about the opportunities that they have and using their parent or family member as a sounding board. There is a law, it's called the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, or FERPA for the acronym, where the institution isn't allowed to share with a parent. So like if a parent contacts me about a student, those advising notes are part of an educational record, which is protected under FERPA. And so I wouldn't be able to share any details unless the student were to give me permission to do so, written permission through a release. So there's that kind of tension there, but absolutely, I think our students really benefit from continuing to have those conversations with home as they discover new things at Brown.
Great, thank you. Yes, that's a reoccurring theme in many of our webinars, that FERPA piece. So we talk about that a lot. The next question, I'll move back over to you, Malia. Can peer advisors help students figure out their concentration if they haven't determined one yet?
Yeah, so they totally can. It's not necessarily that the peer advisor is going to like sit down with them and be like, okay, decide your concentration. But if your student is unsure what they're going to concentrate with, they can totally sit down and have a conversation with their MIC. They could lay out, the MIC can basically just have a conversation with them and sort of help them determine their own motivations. Like, okay, maybe these are the things you're considering. Why are you considering this concentration? They can help you also design course plans, like a long extended 4-year course plan of when you would get these credits done and how you would balance it with just other outside classes that you wanted to take. So they can totally help you design your concentration and make sure that you're getting these credits done in time while also having the balance and the freedom to explore other fields that you're interested in.
Great. And so say a student is decided on a concentration and then they change to a different concentration. Does that mean their Meiklejohn will change, Malia?
So no, they're not going to change. Your Meiklejohn is assigned to you prior to the freshman year, and they will stay with you for the entirety of the freshman year. Your MICs aren't necessarily assigned based on your concentration to kind of encourage the communication and the interdepartmental relationships between people and just kind of creating a broad advising network. So our hope is that the MICs will be able to provide helpful information regardless of their concentration and also help you to navigate your transitional life into Brown outside of the academic sphere as well as the academic sphere. So.
Great, thank you. So Cecile, when you have a student who arrives in your first meeting with them and they're undecided, do you advise, is your process different than when you have somebody who comes in and they already know exactly what they're going to study?
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, I feel like with most of my students, the experience has been the former. I think most students are just interested in so many different things that it's really hard for them to just choose one. So the biggest thing that we usually do together is go through CAB, which is basically the Courses at Brown website, and we look at the different departments they might be interested in and kind of map out a list of the classes they want to shop, just because shopping period is just such a great time to like get to know the professors and really see the courses before you commit to registering for them. But beyond looking at classes, we also try to connect them to the DUG. So because then through the DUG, the departmental undergraduate group, they can kind of see events and talk to people who are currently in that concentration just to get a vibe for what their 4 years in that concentration would look like. And then beyond that, I feel like every department usually hosts events throughout the school year, which give you another perspective on the department. For example, I'm not really interested in contemplative studies at all, but my friend is a concentrator in the department. So I recently went to one of their talks on Taoism, and it was just a super interesting talk. And if I were a freshman going in, it would have totally changed my perspective on what I could study at Brown and the classes that I might have been interested in. And I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't shown up to that event. And there are just so many events always posted on Today at Brown and just events.brown.com. There's just a lot going on. So I think connecting them to all those different resources so they don't feel like they're just discovering their passion through their courses.
Great, thank you. And we had a question that came in. Somebody's interested to know how many students do each one of you advise?
I'd say 4 to 6.
Okay, and that's about standard across the board? Yeah. Let's see. And Gilda, how does a student who is interested in becoming part of this program, how do they learn more about it?
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of that happens organically because the first year student is working with their Meiklejohn and then meets other Meiklejohns throughout, their academic experience. And then the MIC leaders host events to get the word out about the program. And as they start to think about what they want to get involved in their sophomore year, it kind of is a natural thing, as you heard Cecile say, to pay it forward, to give back to the community, to serve as that resource for an incoming student, because they remember what it was like to feel slightly overwhelmed and just be able to call someone and ask a question, and know that they're there for you. And really, it's a rewarding experience. Like, we don't have trouble, like I said, recruiting folks to be Meiklejohns, because they really enjoy the relationships that they develop with the first year students.
Yeah, we can certainly hear that with the two students here. Can you talk a little bit about specialized programs? You mentioned all the different advising resources on campus. Will the folks at Meiklejohn point them in different directions if they need that other resource instead of Meiklejohn advising?
Absolutely. So some of our specific student populations, like I'm thinking about our dual degree students or our BRDD students who are pursuing degrees, not just at Brown, but also at RISD, or pre-health students, our international students, our transfer students, our resumed undergraduate education students, like all of those subpopulations have their own peer advisor as well. And so Meiklejohns kind of work concurrently with them. And so they're acclimating them to the institution, but also they're getting some of their more specialized questions answered by their other programmatic or subpopulation peer advisor.
Great, thank you. Cecile, we had a question that came in about wait lists. So if you had a student come to you and they'd been waitlisted on a class that they had their heart set on, would you be able to advise them on, alternatives to that class that might fit what they're looking for?
Yeah, definitely. And I'd also consider telling them to look at the course in different semesters. But I think the most important thing is still showing up to that class for the next 2 weeks or so for shopping period, because most of the times the waitlist shift. I think every class that I've been waitlisted on, I've gotten off of the waitlist just because people change their mind and drop. With shopping period, nothing is really definite. So that waitlist is usually temporary. And until the professor says that there's officially no more space, I'd encourage them to still go.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if the new parents on this webinar will know exactly about shopping period. And even some of the returning families, I think it always helpful to explain this because it is so unique to Brown. Can you talk a little bit more about shopping period?
Yeah, so for shopping period, you have a 2-week period where you can basically attend any class you want. And this could be 20 classes if you wanted to spend your entire week looking at all these different courses, or you could just come in with 4 that you know you're going to take and just choose to shop those 4. So every student really has a different experience with that. But usually I look at all the different syllabuses for the classes I'm going to, and I just make a schedule and attend different classes every day of the week, and then just kind of shift the courses that I want to take or the courses that I'm interested in after going to those classes a few times. So sometimes I'll know from the first lecture that I really don't want to take that course, or maybe I don't want to take it this early on in my career, and that's totally fine. I can just shop it again the next year or just not take it. And then I can choose the courses that I want to remain in and shop them until the end of shopping period, where you have to declare what you want to register for.
Great. Thank
Can
you.
I add something to that?
Yeah, sure.
To represent my faculty colleagues, I think that there is also an expectation that when students are shopping the class, that they are keeping up to speed with the assignments and the readings. And so just making sure that it's manageable. And for some students, I do think that could be up to, 7 classes. And for others, it's 5, knowing that they're ultimately going to end up in 4. So just be cognizant of that when you talk to your student, that faculty are expecting that students who are shopping their course are still doing the work for their class, despite shopping throughout that period.
Thank you. And, we had a question about that exact subject come in right as you were saying it. So thank you, Hilda. Malia, when do students have to decide their concentration?
So there's a period, I'm actually a sophomore. There's a period in your 4th semester by which you have to declare your concentration. So for us, that was right around the middle of March, but you can change your concentration up until the end of your last semester at Brown, or the penultimate semester at Brown. So in between your sophomore year when you originally declare and up until that time, you can change, and people totally do. At least for me, I'm currently pursuing an SCB in biology, but there's also an AB option. And I've heard from the advisors in the bio department that people change between that one all the time. They have different requirements. and people just jump around concentrations frequently. So you do have to declare by the time that you're the second semester of your sophomore year, but it's totally not set in stone, and you still have a lot of flexibility in that.
Great. And another question that just came in. If somebody is choosing to pursue a double concentration, do they have to take more classes in order to graduate on time?
It depends on the number of requirements that each of those concentrations has. We give deference to the academic departments to determine what their individual requirements are. But most of the time when you're double concentrating, you can double count 2 of your courses towards both. So hopefully that helps.
Great. And Gilda, when do these appointments typically start for first year students?
The advising appointments?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So we will kick off advising on September 1st, which is advising day. So during the orientation period before fall semester starts.
Excellent. And then it looks like we have a student in the audience. So I'm going to have our Meiklejohns advise them live here on the webinar. They're asking if they can study astronomy at Brown. So if you had a student come to you and ask you that, how would you advise them? Cecile, you want to start?
Yeah, I was going to say, while astronomy isn't a concentration in itself, astronomy is offered in physics at multiple different levels. So you could study astronomy and you could get involved in research in astronomy. There are tons of professors where that's their specialty, but I don't believe there's a concentration for astronomy in itself.
There is a concentration. It's a small one, but it is within the Department of Physics. So it's underneath the physics concentration, but there is I believe it's an AB in astronomy. And they're also, I haven't been there, but I've heard of it. I do know we have like a planetarium on campus, or like an observatory. I think it's called the Ladd Observatory.
Yes.
And I personally want to check that out because I think stars are cool. I also, my first semester, I took a class called Mars, Moon, and the Earth, which was super fun. It just kind of talked about these 3 celestial bodies and how they compare to each other, how they're different from each other, and the things that we can learn from our explorations on here and on Mars and on the moon. So there's definitely tons of opportunities to study astronomy.
Right. And I know I'm putting you both a little bit on the spot, but I think you showed definitely how you would begin the process and get that student to the right resources. And I'm assuming, maybe Gilda, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but an independent concentration could be built off of that as well.
Yeah, so there are specific eligibility requirements for a student who wants to pursue an independent concentration, but our Curriculum Resource Center is a wonderful place where students can go actually talk to current independent concentrators about what the process is, what support systems there are, and they will actually help them. Those current students, again, you can see the trend of like wanting to pay it forward and give back to the community. They will help the students put together their materials to then move forward for approval to do the independent concentration. So because we are such fans of interdisciplinary study at Brown, I would say that we have not even come close to coming towards the end of like all the various options that our students have creatively come up with for their independent concentrations.
Great, thank you. One of the, I think, designations that somebody noted just now was SEB and AB. Can you explain what that is to the audience?
Yeah, I can totally talk about that. So basically the 2 degree types that we have right now are the SEB, which is the Bachelor's of Science, and the AB, which is the Bachelor's of Arts. Usually it's like a BS and a BA, I think, in some other universities. Basically, in some fields, there are options for both. So I'm concentrating in biology, and you can either get a degree, a Bachelor's of Science or Bachelor of Arts in biology. In some cases, there's only the Bachelor's of Arts, like astronomy is only offered as a Bachelor's of Arts, and some things are only offered as a Bachelor's of Science. And it really is up to the student on an individual basis which one you would choose. I personally chose the SCB because I enjoyed the specificity that it got. I'm interested in studying immunology and diseases also, and the SCB got really specific, and it also incorporates research into the course curriculum. I know some people that are pursuing an AB in biology because it provided them with more flexibility, such as I have a friend who's double concentrating in biology and like medieval studies or something like that. So the AB in biology helped offer them a little more flexibility to integrate these 2 concentrations together.
Thank you. Great explanation on those terms. So we have about 7 minutes left. I want to wrap things up a little bit and just have each of you leave people with just your final thought on, the best way that students can navigate using the Meiklejohn program. And then, and I would like your thoughts again on just tips for parents to really support this work. I'll start with you, Cecile.
Yeah, I did want to also answer one of the questions that showed up in the chat. Someone asked if there were like specific pre-med advisors. And while most of the time, pre-meds don't always get assigned to a Meiklejohn who is pre-med, unless it just happens to work out that way, there's a separate health careers advising office. So students can have multiple different advisors, just like Gilda showed in that slideshow, and they can reach out to those advisors in different spaces when they need them. So Meiklejohns don't really have to be aligned with the grad school focus that the student has. But as for my final thoughts, I just think peer advising is so important, as it helps students get comfortable with the campus and also just feel part of the community here, and also connects them to so many awesome resources that I think I wouldn't have personally known about prior to talking to my Meiklejohn or just communicating with my faculty advisor. So I just think it's a really important way for students to just get the most out of their Brown experience. And although some students may not want to really rely on their Meiklejohn can be a great person to connect them to other people that may help them some more. So definitely encourage your students to be involved.
Thank you so much, Cecile, and thank you for being part of this today. Melia?
Yeah, I'm kind of just echoing Cecile's thoughts again. I personally love the Meiklejohn advising program. I love the peer advising. I think it sets up a really great network of people and resources that you can use at Brown. And me being a Meiklejohn and being a MIC leader as well, I found out a lot of great resources that I wouldn't have known about. And now I'm equipped to share it with other incoming first years, or even just like friends that I've made. I think that there's a lot of exploration that's done. I've learned a lot from my advisees too. They're all concentrating in wildly different things. I have 4 advisees, and me and the 4 of them are like completely different stuff. We'll share like, oh, this event's happening. Oh, this is happening. So we all get a little taste of all the different concentrations. And so I would also encourage any students who are interested to build a relationship with your Meiklejohn, and when the applications come out during your freshman year, to join our team, because I personally love it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And Gilda.
Yeah, I mean, I think my final thoughts would be, I hope you've heard what a wonderfully welcoming and supportive environment Brown is, and that students should never hesitate to ask questions, be curious, explore all the options. And when you don't know something, don't be afraid to ask. That's why we're here. Faculty, staff, and these peer advisors are really invested in each other's success. And that's genuine. And that is something that makes Brown a really unique and wonderful place to work and study. So I'm so delighted that we had this opportunity. Thank you so much.